Hello and welcome to another simple and affordable plant-based cooking with Brian and Joe. Today we're going to talk about uh, keeping up with your decision to eat more plant-based foods. It's February when we're shooting this video. A lot of people have decided to start eating plant-based as part of a New Year's resolution, but whether you decided to go plant-based or eat more plant-based foods because of a New Year's resolution, because of health concerns, because of anything. As you're doing this for a while, sometimes there are some challenges that come up. And so today we want to give you four recipes. We're going to do four recipes. And these are ways to combat cravings, to kind of fill in the gaps around a lot of the things that we found that we were missing when we first transitioned to a plant-based diet, and what we've heard from other plant-based eaters that they felt like they wanted. So these are really simple recipes. They're basics. In fact, two of the things we're going to show you today don't even have recipes. They are techniques, but we'll tell you more about that as we get into them. So should we dive?
I was going to say, let's go ahead and get into it.
Okay. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to do our dressing, and I'm calling it a dressing, not necessarily a salad dressing, because you can certainly use this as a salad dressing, but you can also use it as a marinade. You can use it for all sorts of flavoring kinds of options. And the reason that we're starting with this is that a lot of salad dressings have a lot of oil in them. And we wanted to show you a way to make a really quick and simple dressing with some really basic ingredients. We're using the Trader Joe's Green Dragon hot sauce, some rice wine vinegar, soy sauce, and coconut aminos, but this is a really versatile dressing as well. So one of the things you'll notice about this recipe is that it uses parts, not ounces, not tablespoons, not cups. For some people that can be a little confusing, but it's really pretty simple. If you add up all the parts, this recipe has a total of 6 parts. So if you want to make 6 ounces of dressing, each part will be an ounce. If you want to make 6 cups of dressing, because you're having a big party or something like that, each part will be a cup. In our case, a part is this shot glass that we have. And the nice thing about this is 6 parts just about fills the bottle that we're using.
Yeah.
So all you do is measure out the parts, dump them into a jar, and shake. But one of the great things about this recipe is that it's a base, like so many of the other things that we do. So if you don't have or you can't get a hold of Green Dragon, use whatever hot sauce you like. If you like it really spicy, use a really spicy hot sauce. If you like it pretty mild, use ketchup. The other thing is you can switch out the vinegars. We're using rice wine vinegar because it has a nice, slightly sweet, mild taste. But we've also used the vinegar that's left over in the bottom of a pickle jar or a jar of jalapenos if you want something that's kind of spicy. So really, like everything else that we do, we're going to encourage you to use this recipe as a jumping off point. We'll talk a little bit about the coconut aminos.
Well, as we were talking about substitutions, we said that if you couldn't get a hold of coconut aminos, you could double up on the soy sauce.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing about the coconut aminos compared to soy sauce is the amino is a lot sweeter.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so it sort of rounds out all those flavors. The soy sauce gives you a little bit of salty and tangy. The aminos, some sweetness. You get some spice, and you get some acid.
But once again, if you can't get a hold of coconut aminos, don't let that stop you from making the dressing. Just double up on the soy sauce or leave it out altogether. Coconut aminos are relatively easy to get at health food stores, and you can get them online. I don't know whether you'd find them in your grocery store. I don't think we found them in the grocery store, but
we haven't looked really.
That's true too. So there it is. It's our basic dressing. It's really easy to make. It's really versatile. You can use it As a salad dressing, you can marinate tofu in it. You can marinate soy curls, which we
Soy
like to use a
curls
lot.
or even TVP.
Yeah, textured vegetable
Yeah.
protein, the vegetable crumbles that you can get in a lot of stores. You can marinate vegetables in it. Toss it with some um, either raw vegetables and grill them, or roast them, or with vegetables after you've cooked them.
You cook them, add a little bit of this, and then serve it over some rice.
Exactly. So, just a nice way to inject some flavor into a meal. Very simple to make. And we make it in, well, you saw the
Yep.
jar that we make it in, and then just stick it in the fridge because it will last a good long time in the fridge, unless you eat it all up.
In which case, make more.
Exactly.
The next craving I think we really hit, or that really hit us, was cheese, and that nice creamy cheesiness and all that. Well, it's dairy, of course you can't have it. The store bought cheeses, a lot of them have oil in them, and a lot of oil.
And even the ones that don't have oil, there are some that we've used in other recipes that we've done in this series, but they can tend to be a little bit expensive. So this is one that we've been making for, wow, years now.
Since we almost started. I think I found this a couple of months after we started.
Hmm. And it's pretty simple, but don't let that fool you. It's really tasty.
So, and the ingredients are fairly simple.
Now, this one there is a downloadable recipe for.
Yes. Now, the carrots on this, they're just leaving their prime. So they are a little soft, but that's okay. You're going to be boiling these, and you want them mashable, as you want the potatoes. So this is a good way of cleaning up some of those last little bits at the end of their life.
Right. So if you have carrots or potatoes that haven't gone bad but aren't exactly at their prime, we should also talk about we are using Yukon Gold potatoes in this recipe, and those are the waxier potatoes. This recipe really works well with the waxy potatoes, so that'll be things like red potatoes or Yukon Gold. The baking potatoes,
Well,
you've used them and they work okay, but if you have the option, I think this works better with the waxy potatoes.
I think the baking potatoes, they have a little bit more starch in them, and so it sets a little thicker.
Okay.
So also we've got the peels on this, and we're going to blend these. And if your blender is not very powerful or whatever, you may get little specks of the skin in it. And if that's going to, well, not look as pretty as being a nice consistency, you may want to peel them ahead of time. But we tend not to peel our vegetables.
Right, just like we haven't peeled the carrot, we just have a good vegetable brush. We give everything a little bit of a scrub and chop it up and throw it in the pot. So really that's all you're doing here is you're chopping everything up, you're getting it to about the same size. And that's a little bit important because if it's the same size, it will cook at the same rate. As you said, you want to cook this thoroughly because you want it to be nice and soft and mashable.
Yep.
And while that's cooking,
So
there we
there's
go, in the pot.
a nice little stir, and then I'm going to actually switch over to center stage here.
Yeah, we're using our fancy induction cooktop here, but you really any heat source that you have that will get everything to boiling. I know we give you a quantity of water in the recipe, but really all you want to do is cover everything by, what, about an inch or so?
Well, the quantity of water is for what you pull out.
Oh, okay.
So when cooking this, you just want about an inch above the surface. And I use cold water or room temperature water because it will heat the potatoes and carrots through as they're heating up.
Mm-hmm.
So letting that come to a boil. Now we're going to add the rest of the ingredients. Now this is nutritional yeast. It's very flaky, powdery, light, but it is what gives you that cheesy flavor. And one of the things we wanted to talk about was supplements.
Right. So one of the things that we've found in talking to physicians and to other people who are eating plant-based diets is that sometimes there is an issue in getting enough B12 in our diets. A lot of nutritional yeasts, not all of them, you need to do your research, but a lot of nutritional yeasts do have supplemental B12 in them, and so they can be a good source. There are also B12 supplements that are available. Now, none of this is intended as medical advice, so you should talk to your physician about making sure that you do have enough B12 in your diet. And there are some simple blood tests that can be done to check your B12 level. So this has been boiling for about 10 minutes now.
Yep.
You're going to fish out a couple of pieces and just test, right?
Yeah, I'm looking for some big pieces because those are going to take the longest to cook. And if those are cooked, then it's done. If not, then I need to go a little longer.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a nice chunk of potato, and here's some pieces of carrot. But and I'm leaving this boiling, so it's just you're not really going to overcook this. So and
So
that
it's
carrot
still a little firm.
it slices nicely, but it's not mashable. Potatoes, on the other hand,
So,
and the little carrot.
so you want the big pieces of carrot to be about as mashable as that potato is now. Is that what you're looking
Yeah.
for? Yeah. Because this is a nice close-up, and I want people to
Right.
be able to see what they're aiming for. So you're just going to let it boil a little more, right?
Yep. About another 5 minutes. Just check every 5 minutes.
Mhm.
So
So this is something that we should bring up in all of the recipes that we're doing today that involve heat. Your oven, your stove, your produce, your potatoes, or whatever, are going to be a little bit different. So we give you some timings in the recipes as a starting point, but this is really kind of a by feel thing. One of the other things I'm noticing is you've got your nice insulating glove on. I only say this because I have made this mistake myself. When you're dealing with boiling water and hot pans, things get hot, so make sure you're using either insulating gloves or a pot holder or whatever as you're moving this stuff around. Be careful in the kitchen.
Yeah,
So you just
shouldn't
mashed
hurt
a little carrot there, and that mashed nicely.
yeah, and so I think that's done. But I want it to rest now. So we're going to rest for 5 minutes.
You turned off the heat, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just left it there.
Right. And we're just going to get our little thing out of the way. So we're using our fancy high-powered blender, and you do need a reasonably good, reasonably powered blender to do this, but you don't have to have a really expensive blender like this. Go slow. Make sure you're not overworking your blender, and it should all work out for you. So this is that half cup of water that we were
Right.
talking about. And you're using the water from the potatoes. You want to
Right.
talk about that a little bit?
Well, essentially, you want to have some of that starchy water. So you want to keep the starches up there. And but this is it's hot. It will help rehydrate the nutritional yeast. And right now, I'm just sort of blending everything together, just to make sure it's all mixed. But yeah, just a little bit of water will help when we're mixing the potatoes and the carrots in here, so it doesn't get too thick. And I keep the water handy, so I don't just drain this into the sink or whatever. In case I need extra water in this, if it comes out too thick, then I can pull another couple of ounces of water. And there, I think I was just looking to make sure I got all of it.
So you're going to take those potatoes and carrots that have been cooked until they're nice and soft. You've got the spices, the nutritional yeast, and the water already in the blender and blended together.
Yep.
You just snap the lid on and Start out slow and work your way up and just blend it till it's smooth.
Yeah.
Now, we've got a fancy blender that's got this tamper with it, and we did have to use it on this to tamp it down. If you don't have a blender like this, you may have to stop every once in a while and scrape the sides down. Make sure you stop the blender before you take the lid off and scrape the sides down, and don't try and scrape it down while it's running. Ask me how I know not to do that.
Yeah. And that ran for a little over a minute, but just go until it looks like it's smooth. And I didn't get as many skin flakes on this, so it's a nice smooth consistency in appearance.
So as you can see, it's nice and steamy and hot, but if you look at the consistency, it looks like cheese sauce. Now it is very hot now, so this is as thin and runny as it's going to get. As it chills down, it will
firm
stiffen
up.
up, right? And if you have any leftovers and you stick it in the fridge, and this stuff refrigerates and reheats nicely in the microwave, in the fridge it gets pretty stiff.
Oh, yeah.
And it will loosen up again when you reheat it.
Yeah.
I think it's a little thicker when you reheat it.
And it will thicken over time as well, because in 2 or 3 days this will be like a paste.
Right. Yeah. It's as the starches set and things like that happen. So here we are. We're just putting it into jars so that we can store it in the fridge. And we'll come back a little bit later on and show you some of the things you can do with this.
Yep.
But, excuse me, essentially it is cheese sauce, and you can use it just like you would any of those meltable cheese sauces.
Yeah. In fact, we had a story about you.
Oh, yeah. When we first started moving to a plant-based diet, Brian made a broccoli cheese casserole out of this. And this is great for doing broccoli cheese casserole, broccoli cheese soup. Add a little vegetable stock and thin it down and put some steamed broccoli in it and spice it up however you like. So I had a big bowl of this broccoli cheese casserole, and I really enjoyed it. And it was very, very filling, very satiating. And then I thought, oh, I want more of this because it's so good, but it's so rich and creamy and cheesy, and I shouldn't have it because it's not. Oh, hold on, there's no cheese in this. This is just broccoli, potatoes, and carrots. I can pretty much have as much of this as I want.
Sort of your Oliver twist, I think it was. May I have some more?
So, let's move on to the next recipe.
And again, these are going to be more techniques.
Yes.
Another thing we start craving is crunchy, because we end up cooking a lot of our vegetables. They get soft. We're having rice. We're having pasta. We miss the chips. But
the bad news about chips is most of the commercially available chips are deep fried.
Yeah.
And since we are on a whole food, plant-based, no oil diet, well, that kind of violates the no oil part of it.
Right.
But what we found out is that you can make chips at home really easily. So here we're using corn tortillas.
Yep.
And you are just slicing them into chips. And
right. Now you can do
you can do chips. 8. You can do strips.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want. But we found
I like doing it in thirds. Well, in this case, 6. So each tortilla is cut into 6 pieces. You could do 8. They're smaller, but this gives you a good dipping type chip, something that will stand up if you're got some guacamole or some cheese sauce or all salsa. So
now we're going to show you 2 ways to do this. The first way we're going to do it is in just a regular oven. This is not a convection oven, although if you do have a convection oven, you could experiment with that. We haven't tried it in a convection oven. I'm a little concerned that the fan might blow the chips all over the place.
Yeah.
But you're just laying those out on a cooling rack, and you wanted to say...
Yeah, you want to make sure that you use a cooling rack that does not have a coating to it.
And doesn't have those little rubber feet on it.
Right.
Basically, you're going to throw this in a 400-degree oven.
Yes.
So make sure your cooling rack doesn't have anything that will melt on it.
Or burn, or because those can stink.
Now, one of the things you'll notice is that Brian laid those out so that they do not touch or overlap each other, and that's kind of important because if they do overlap, especially while they're still kind of soft and pliable and wet like this, they will glue themselves to each other
Yep.
and they'll never really dry out.
Now, in the air oven, because it does have a fan and they will blow around a little bit, you don't have to be so picky. But you do not want to overload this.
Mm-hmm. Now this is a great use for an air fryer. So if you have an air fryer, we definitely recommend you use it. If you are considering getting an air oven or an air fryer, this is a great way to justify it. These have been in the air fryer at 400 degrees for about 4 minutes. Brian took
Yeah.
them out, he's shaking them up a little bit, kind of tossing them around, making
Yeah.
sure they're not sticking to each other. As you can see, they're still pretty blonde, and so they
Yeah.
need a little more cooking. These have been in the conventional oven for,
About 5 minutes. So,
and here he's taking each one and flipping it over because they do cook differently on the top and the bottom in a conventional oven, and so you do really
yeah.
want to flip them.
It gives you also a chance to check to make sure that you're not getting any burns, you don't have a hot spot in your oven, so if you have to rotate things.
Right. Now, once again, ovens are different, air fryers are different. This is a starting point. This is really a check it. If you like crisper chips, cook them a little more. If you like your chips a little bendy, who am I to judge? So you can.
Well, and also your tortilla has
Yes.
a factor. If you can get the thicker ones, then you'll have a thicker chip. If you have thin ones, there's thinner chips.
And of course, the thicker ones probably need to cook a bit longer.
Right, but those will also stand up to good dipping.
Exactly.
So,
As we keep encouraging you, experiment, try different things, try different tortillas. Remember, we're doing both the air oven and the
Yeah.
conventional oven at 400 degrees. And here they are, out of the air oven. Again, the air oven is hot, so you'll notice
Yes.
the glove.
okay, I think I'm done with that now. So, we've got our two chips. Now for a nice little treat.
Told you we were going to show you one of the things we like to do with the cheese sauce. Those are chopped jalapenos. You can
Yep.
use whatever you like. If you like a mild chili, you can do that. If you don't like chili at all, then don't put any chili in.
Yeah.
You could chop up some tomatillos and put that in. We're using jarred salsa. You can use whatever you like here as well.
Yeah.
You can chop up tomatoes. You can make your own salsa. You could put in some guacamole, whatever you like.
We did check the ingredients on this, and so it is compliant.
Yes, there's no oil in that. And then we're taking that fresh cheese sauce. I think it's still hot.
Yeah. So it's still really nice and loose.
If it's not hot, just stick it in the microwave for a little while.
Yeah.
Stir that up and you've got a nice nacho cheese dip. And we have some tortilla chips.
Yep.
And so
What could happen next?
I know. Well, we've got oil-free chips and dairy-free nacho sauce. So I'm pretty happy with this combination.
Really simple, really quick.
So while we're waiting here for a second, we should take a moment to thank the people at the Indianapolis Public Library and the Indianapolis Foundation Library Fund. I think I actually got that right
Yeah.
this time. Who made this video possible and who really have committed a lot to making whole food plant-based eating a reality for a lot of people. So if you are part of the Indianapolis Public Library system, check them out. They have great resources, cookbooks, as well as books about plant-based eating. That can be great resources. And if you're not part of the Indianapolis Public Library system, you can still download their resources guide, where they've got books and films and other resources that they've cataloged that can be really good sources of information excuse me, about plant-based eating. And check it out and go to your local library and get those resources for them. We should also note that we are advocates of a whole food, plant-based, no oil diet. So, and that's what our recipes are based on. You can check out more information about that with some of the resources that are available through the library, some of our other videos. And certainly if you want to eat that way, if that's a health decision that you're making for yourself, we support you in that. All of our recipes and all of the techniques that we show you meet the criteria for whole food, plant-based, no oil cooking. But they're also completely vegan. So if you're eating this way for ethical reasons or for whatever other reasons that you're choosing a plant-based diet, this will work for you as well. What I think is really important to remember is that you can do good for the planet and do good for your health at the same time. Those don't need to be competing goals. The last thing I should mention is that neither one of us are physicians or medical professionals, and so nothing that you hear in any of our videos should be construed as medical advice. And whenever you make a significant change to your lifestyle, whether that's exercise, diet, or any other significant lifestyle changes, you should always do that in coordination with your physician or healthcare professional. These things can be powerful and can be really useful in maintaining and regaining your health. So get your healthcare professionals involved.
So our last technique, recipe, whatever, French fries. I mean, we've all sort of like hit the fast food lane and grabbed the fries, and well, can't do that now again, the oil. So I'm going to do some oven baked and some air fry potatoes, and we'll show you some different techniques. So
starting out with potatoes. Now, are these the same potatoes, or are you using...
These are russets. These are the baking potatoes.
Right. So for the French fries, the starchy potatoes tend to work better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this is a French fry potato slicer. You can get different grids on the front that give you different sizes.
You don't need one of these.
No.
And in fact, the first thing Brian's going to do is show you how to make these without the fancy French fry cutter. So he's just cutting some planks here. So just cutting those potatoes into planks.
And being very careful. Potatoes are tough to cut and do not want to hurt yourself.
Now, this is a place where a sharp knife is pretty important because a dull knife will slip where a sharp knife will cut. You'll notice here and in some of the other shots that Brian has his fingers curled under and he's using his knuckles as a guide to keep that knife away from his fingers.
Yeah, I'm actually going to give you a better angle at that right here.
There you go, yeah. See, got those fingertips curled under and keeping track of where the edge of the blade is, so be very careful. Use a nice sharp knife, and there you go. So you've got some basically potato sticks.
Mm-hmm. Try to get them all about the same size. Again, they'll all cook about the same time. Mm-hmm.
So these are sticks. You can also cut these into wedges, and I think you're going to show that a little bit later on.
Yeah. And again, we're going to do air oven and
the conventional oven.
Conventional oven.
And one of the things you'll note here is there's that black mat on the baking sheet. That's a grill mat. It's another one of those things that you can get online or at some barbecue store. I think even any place you can buy a barbecue, I think you can buy a mat. Using that or some parchment paper or a silicone mat is kind of important because those potatoes are starchy and that starch is basically glue.
Yes.
So if you put those directly on a metal baking sheet, they will glue themselves to that sheet.
Yep. The mat allows me to be able to flex it a little bit, and I can usually pop things off of them.
You'll see that in a minute. You'll notice also that as Brian is putting them into the air oven, he's making sure there's some room for air to circulate around them. So here he is, he's going to cut some wedges, and so now instead of just cutting straight down, he's kind of angling the knife a little bit so that he can get that wedge-shaped piece.
And rotate your food. You don't have to bend the knife in the wrong direction.
Right, you don't have to try and backhand.
Yeah.
So again, he's stacking it in that air fryer basket in a way that allows air circulation, and when we start adding more potatoes, you'll see one of the tricks that we use to make sure that we do get good air circulation. So now we're going to use the fancy thing, and instead of having to do all that stuff with the knife, you take the potato
And you got this nice little tooth thing. And
jam it into there. Those little prongs will push it all the way through the grid at the front. Give it a good whack, and there you go. Instant French fries. If you've ever been to some of those burger joints, you have seen this thing in action. It works really well, but again, you don't need it. We like French fries a lot, so we
I think this is the smallest fry setting. So
Yeah.
yes, you can get it with different grates to make different size fries, to make wedges. There are all sorts of different grates. So here's the trick. You'll notice that Brian's taking a little bit of time here to stack those potatoes in a crisscross pattern. And the reason he's doing that, well, there are two reasons that he's doing that. One is it minimizes the contact between two pieces of potato, so we don't get those wet spots where the potato is not getting that air circulation. And also it maximizes the air circulation. So we've got that fan blowing hot air around the air fryer, and we want that hot air to be able to hit as much of the potato from as many sides as possible.
now, not really going to do that much on the mat, but I am going to spread them out.
Right. And if you do more than one layer on the mat, you certainly want to
Yeah.
do that. But you have to be a little careful. You can't put as many on the mat in the oven as you can in the air fryer. So here they are getting slid into the oven and in and out and checked.
So,
Our little montage here.
yeah.
But here is what we were talking about, where even with the grill mat, they do tend to stick a little bit, but the grill mat or a silicone mat or some parchment paper at least gives you a chance to be able to get underneath and slide those things out. You do want,
Pardon my head.
yes, you do want some sort of thin bladed either metal or plastic spatula so that you can get under there and scrape. And you, on the baked ones especially, you do want to make sure that you turn them over because they will cook at a faster rate when they're in contact with that metal sheet than when they're just exposed to the air.
Yeah. I like using the plastic because then it doesn't cut into the mat.
Yes, exactly.
As compared to a metal spatula.
Right. So back into the oven, and again,
Yeah, that was 15 minutes if I remember correctly.
but your oven may be different.
Yeah. This
The
is
air fryer after 20 minutes, and what you want to do here is break them up because they will glue themselves to each
Yeah.
other.
You'll see a couple in there that are sort of stuck together.
So you can break them apart. You don't need to restack them at this point because they do have that kind of crispy starch coat on them. And if they need a little bit more time, you can put them back in. These actually came out kind of nice and
This-
crispy at this.
Yeah, this I was pleasantly happy with. So I was going to call this good. And,
So now you're just going to plate them up.
yeah, I'm just going to plate up a few, and then this way we get a comparison.
Now, certainly you can just eat these like regular French fries. You can salt them if you like. You can use your favorite ketchup or make some sort of dipping sauce. You could dip them in the cheese sauce. Or you can get a little fancy with them, and we'll show you that in a couple of seconds here after we get the French fries out of the oven as well. So there are the air-fried French fries. And here, coming into focus now, after
Okay.
10 more minutes.
Yep. And you can see they're starting to brown and all that. And I they're brown on a couple of sides. You could probably throw these in for another 5 minutes or so, but I think they're cooked through.
Mm-hmm.
So
If you have any doubts, just break one open and make sure that it's fluffy all the way through, that you don't have any crunchy bits in the center. And if you do, put it back in the oven and let it go a little bit more. So, once again, the air fryer works really well for these, but if you don't have an air fryer,
yeah,
certainly don't let that stop you. These work perfectly well in the oven. We didn't have an air fryer the first couple of years that we were doing the plant-based eating, and we still made them. And you can see, now these look different, and they will come out slightly different, but you also can put them back in the oven and get them
Yeah.
to that darker color if that's what you like.
yeah.
So now you've taken some of that cheese sauce.
And I've taken some soy curls, which are steamed, flaked soybean.
Right. So it's a product that's called Butler Soy Curls. You can get it online or in a lot of health food stores, and it's just this nice kind of flaky protein that reminds a lot of people of some of the products they miss, like chicken, from when they were eating before.
And so I've got some cheese sauce, I've got the soy curls, and now some Frank's hot sauce. And
There you go. And this is another thing where you can dress this up however you like. If you want to put some jalapeno peppers on it, if you want to put some salsa on it, whatever you want to do. It's just, if you
throw
want
some
to,
black beans. Or,
or if you wanted to throw some broccoli on, and then you'd have a complete meal. You'd have your green vegetable, your nice cheesy sauce on the broccoli, potatoes,
yeah.
and there you go.
Yeah. So, but these are just some quick and easy, try to get rid of those cravings that you're having and see that you're eating differently. It doesn't mean you have to do without.
Right. It's a few more things that you can add to your repertoire, and again, you can use these ingredients in a number of different ways. The dressing you can use as a marinade. You can use, as we said, to coat vegetables or to make a salad, or get creative. The cheese sauce you can use in a whole bunch of different ways. You could make enchiladas out of it. Use it as part of a filling for an enchilada. You
Tonight with soft tacos.
Right, we did soft tacos with it. So use these ingredients and use them and combine them in different ways. We would love to hear how you're getting creative with these things. So you can, I think you can post replies to the video on YouTube, or you can reach us through social media. We are probably most active on YouTube, where we've got our whole food plant-based cooking with Brian and Joe page, which you should be able to get to if you can remember all of that. We'd love to hear what you've done, what you like about these videos, what we got wrong and you'd like to see us do differently. We'd also love some ideas about what kinds of recipes you'd like to see going forward. So let us know, and we'll do the best that we can to make either transitioning to or maintaining a whole food plant-based diet easy for you.
Yeah. So I think that's about it. And again, I'd like to thank the Indianapolis Public Library for this opportunity. And we hope everyone stays healthy, stays safe, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks a lot.